and welcome back to another episode of the ABCs of ERP and Beyond, the podcast where we break down the world of enterprise resource planning and how it shapes the way businesses run. And in today's episode, it's a little bit different. Normally we talk about the great reasons to move to an ERP system, the benefits, the features, the success stories. But here's the thing. Sometimes businesses just aren't ready. And that's not a bad thing. It just means you've got some groundwork to do before your ERP can really start delivering value. So today we're going to talk about how do you know when you're not ready for an ERP, and hopefully you'll find some practical steps that you can take to get ready. So remember, being not ready doesn't mean you'll never be. It just means that ERP should be the last step in your business transformation rather than the first. And as ever, I cannot do this without my fellow co-host, Nirav Shah. Welcome back.
Hey, Peter. Yeah, excited to be back and talk about this subject. I think that does not get talked about enough. And the word ERP gets kind of thrown around like it's going to be like the golden spoon or the perfect solution to any problem, right, that you're having at the moment. And that's where you get into a lot of trouble. And that's where, that initial, thought of let's just get an ERP because it's going to help us with our inventory. It's going to help us with this and help us with that because that's what ERP systems do, without really understanding, is the business ready for it, to take on this project? Is a critical point. And I think probably one of the most important points in your whole digital transformation, like you mentioned, to first have that hard conversation internally. Are we ready for an ERP right now? Right. And most of the times, I would probably tell you, Peter, I think 7 to 8 out of 10 times, they're not ready for an ERP system. Because the amount of work that goes into an ERP system should be a direct result of all the preparation you've done before, while you're, that when you're thinking about getting an ERP system. So then you get ready for an ERP system, then you implement an ERP system. The part that people don't spend a lot of time in is to get ready for an ERP system. So if you don't spend that time to get ready for an ERP system, you're not ready for an ERP system. So you need to do that first and have realistic conversations internally, expectations internally, and then take it from there. So I feel like the last 2 episodes we've been a little bit of Debbie Downers in the ERP space. I think the last one we did was why your ERP go live will fail. And then this one we're doing, why you're not ready for an ERP system. But, our job, right, Peter, in our mission and quest to educate users and companies about ERP is to get them to know every side, every angle of this software, right? And this is an angle that I think not enough pundits and ERP gurus out there talk about, because everyone talks about why you need an ERP system, but not enough time how you properly prepare for an ERP system so you're ready for an ERP system.
Yeah, I think this is definitely something we should talk about, and it's a merit to talk about this stuff, and people should talk about this stuff more because this is a nice segue into our first point here. You're not just buying another piece of software. You're not going to a software vendor, we want to use the Adobe platform. Cool. Bye. Here you go. Here's your licenses. It doesn't work like that, right?
You can't
videos,
just throw watching videos.
It doesn't.
Videos.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So let's just break down this first point we got. We subtitled it, "You're not buying QuickBooks again," and I'm going to put a little bit underneath this. It's basically, for me, ERP does not fix bad processes. All it does is digitize them. That's it. So if you've got every department doing things differently, you've got salespeople that do quotes 3 different ways. An ERP is not going to solve that. It's just going to be garbage in, garbage out. So Let's break down this first one.
Yeah, because this affects people's lives, right? They affect people's jobs and responsibilities, and what they interact with day in and day out, right? When you're coming off of disparate systems, it's really easy to do things off in your own corner without impacting other people, right? So QuickBooks is really good at that. People could just kind of stay in a corner and do their own thing without impacting everybody else, right? Shopify, you're not impacting the whole business. You're just having people take your orders right there, right? You have maybe an inventory ISV, right? An inventory system, right? That's a point solution. That's not impacting, anybody else except that one person that just does inventory, right? So it's really easy to fall into the trap saying, yeah, we want to connect these systems because they're all talking separately because the owner wants to know everything that's going on. But are you ready to put in the work to integrate it and get people and departments to talk with each other, right? And take the time to solve problems? Because if operations is not prepared to give up time to solve problems with their inventory because they can't create a pick on an order, you're not ready for ERP because you haven't even established that line of communication yet. You have to be able to clearly articulate your business process, not that operations just handles inventory. No, operations handles inventory because of orders that come in, and our gap in our process is X, Y, and Z, and this is what we need to solve because it's taking us too long, or we're not shipping orders on time because, and operations is now willing to have a validation with inventory that could potentially slow them down, but we're going to get better data at the end of the day and happier customers. That to me is an optimized, clearly articulated workflow of something that you want to solve with an ERP system.
My takeaway point for this first point, if I'm a company, I'm going, holy crap, they're telling me I'm not ready for an ERP. What should I do for point number one? I guess my thing here would be just to run process workshops with each department, fully understand that. And remember, I think you only understand something if you can clearly articulate it to others. That's when you know that you understand a particular subject. So I would do that. And I'd also do it with maybe if you can identify the leader of each department and bring in each leader. And then they're going to start thinking about, okay, so that's the impact on that particular department. When I do this, that's how that affects them. And then you're starting to build this up, because we know when you're in an ERP project proper, you're going to have a discovery week where you're going to have to articulate all of your processes to your ERP partner. They're going to say, well, how does that work? How does that get to him? How does he know to ship that? How do they know when that's been received in?
Right.
What's the flow of raw material?
Exactly.
And I think if you've done that work ahead of the game, ahead of that, you're going to really be in a position where you can start to think about what that future state looks like before the ERP comes along and digitizes it. So I would use those workshops as a opportunity to, one, document how work is done today, warts and all, versus how it should be done.
Yeah, exactly. ERP readiness, right? And it's basically saying, okay, here are our gaps in our process. We understand them. We have clearly, we have put a value of how important this gap for us is to solve. Everyone's had their input. Everyone understands for us to solve this gap, right? It's going to cost X, Y, and Z time for us to solve this gap, right? And an ERP system will come and do it. Now we know, what we want to solve, and the expectation of that it's going to take us some time to solve it, or what the problem will be, or how the communication needs to be bridged. Now let's find an ERP system that's going to go ahead and bridge that gap for us. And what options are there? Like, okay, we have a general idea, but most systems, every system does something just a little bit differently, right? So better optimization here in this system, better optimization in this system. That's where you come in with your questions. That's where you come in and say, okay, now we know. Now let's really hammer, how do we close this gap in our business process, right? Because you did that ERP readiness. You're just not buying QuickBooks again. And if that's the expectation that, oh, we're just buying QuickBooks again and finance is going to do their thing and inventory is going to do their thing and everything's going to be exactly the same, but we just have an ERP system now, that's not going to be the case, because the ERP system now is connected to everything. And if you don't know that, that could destroy and slow your business down. Because if you're expecting everyone to work the way they're exactly working right now, but within the ERP system, that's not going to happen.
We know that the advantages massively outweigh the disadvantages, but it's easier to see the disadvantage of a single source of truth, because now having that single source means that there's direct impact between departments. Because beforehand it was like, well, if we accidentally ship the wrong thing, that's fine. Finance can do a manual adjustment thing and just do a completely disconnected credit memo to the customer and it'll be fine. And I'll just update my Excel spreadsheet of the inventory. That doesn't work in an ERP, right? You've got to think about how that inventory is corrected. What's the impact to the balance sheet? What's the impact to the customer in itself? How is that going to trigger incorrect demand into my factory? Because I'm telling it I've shipped something, I've shipped the wrong thing. Because it's now connected, it's going to have impact everywhere. That I wouldn't say that's certainly, I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. That's a good thing because it does impact people. You don't realize it, first of all, when it's just like, they can do that. They can manually fudge the books or to make it correct. Businesses shouldn't work like that anyway.
No.
And it's going to hit you in the face if you don't fully understand that, and having each department understand how each department gets impacted and how they work and what their priorities are and how their part of the process works. If you take like order to cash, which involves pretty much every department, once you fully understand that, then you're going to start to see, okay, single source of truth, impact everywhere. Now I can see why an ERP brings together all of my departments, and it will eventually start to be seen as a good thing, but it's going to take a lot of effort to get there.
It's going to take a lot of effort. Exactly. You're not, and I love that. You're not buying QuickBooks again. You're not buying Adobe again, right? You're buying a business system, for everybody at the end of the day. So you have to come in with that expectation that this is going to be an overhaul, of all the different processes and things that you do. And some things that you may be doing right now is a competitive advantage for you, right? If you're able to ship within 24 hours because that's your customers demand that for you, your broken systems allow you to do that, which is fine, which is great. But have the expectation saying, okay, that is a non-negotiable in an ERP. We have to be able to take an order, do the validations, be able to generate a pick and ship within 24 hours. Okay, now you've documented that, exactly what the requirement is, so we could go forward and find the right solution for you, right? Or find the right business process in the ERP. If that's not known, that, hey, requirement number one, we got to be able to take an order and ship within 24 hours. The vendors, just ERP vendors, you're going to go find an ERP system that will require a lot of customization for you to do that, potentially. Right? If there's a lot of different layers of picking and warehousing and shipping and that type of stuff.
This is my other main point for this one, is this is your opportunity as you're starting to unwrap every department and their processes. This is your opportunity to clean up your processes and your business before you go and digitize them. So before you even start talking about customizations, map out your pain points, strip out the non-value added parts that no one actually cares about. You don't care about, the customer certainly doesn't care about, doesn't impact anyone. Right. It's just you have to do it because that's how your current system works. Or you have to do it because that's the way that we've always done it in the past. Think of this as your opportunity to have a bit of a reset. Imagine the chaos of trying to articulate these convoluted processes that have grown fat over the years, and you're trying to explain to your ERP partner why it matters. You're just going to confuse them. Exactly. It's not going to really make much sense. They're going to go, well, no ERP does that because it's probably a stupid, crazy process. And you're doing things that actually no one cares about, that no ERP will have standard out the box anyway. If you convey that this is important to your business when it probably isn't, your ERP partner doesn't know you. They've only known you for 5 minutes. They're going to start thinking, oh, well, you could customize that. You could have a customization project that does that differently. when actually none of it matters. If
Yeah.
you actually phoned up your customer and said, do you care about this piece of paper that I send with every shipment? No, it goes in the bin. Like,
Yeah.
strip that crap out of your processes first. This is your
Exactly.
opportunity to really evaluate those parts and all of those workflows before you start to think about the ERP.
Yeah.
I love it, right? Because especially when you're like, oh yeah, we have to do this thing for this one customer, and they only spend $5,000 a year. Like, just bin them off, get rid of them. Like, you've probably spent $5,000 in people's wages and lost time and paper,
100%.
and the customization project is going to cost $10,000 of developer time for a customer that spends $5,000 a year. Just get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Exactly. Get rid of it. Exactly. Yeah. Unless you want to do more business or whatever and makes your life easier, right? They conform to your processes at the end of the day, right? And that's the conversation you can start having, right? When this is the ERP project, but it goes beyond that a bit as well. To say, well, which of our customers are making us more the exception than the general rule. So
yeah. Oh, I started to go off on a bit of a rant then.
Yeah,
I'll edit that down in afterwards.
Well, sounds like there's some customers there.
There is. We call it a long tail at work.
Long tail. Yeah.
Yeah. The editor can deal with that after.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that one, actually. I'm sure there's a lot of people in that boat.
Okay, straight into point number 2 then. Not enough time dedication to the project. So we know that ERP is not something you fit in on the side. It's not like, I've got an afternoon free, I'll dedicate that to the ERP project. Yeah. We know that especially the early phases are heavy on finance, heavy on data validation.
Huge.
Huge. Let's unwrap this. What do we mean? How do you know you're not ready with this?
Is when your warehouse team can't devote any time with any training. You're not ready. Just don't have any time. You're not ready, because this is all hands on deck. You have to have your key users bring a lot of experience, a lot of your pain points, a lot of what business optimization looks like into the implementation, the training, right? The project plan. Spend time, right? Minimum of 2 hours, 2.5 hours a day in the project, right? And if you don't have that type of time to dedicate to this project, from top down, maybe the project manager to the owner to the key users, different departments, then you're not ready. Don't do it, because it's just gonna delay your ROI, out indefinitely, because you're gonna lean and rely on the partner a lot. You're gonna start doing customizations because you're gonna want to do things that you were doing previously and not want to use what the system has to offer, because you really take time to learn this. This is ERP projects are kind of like going back to college and learning supply chain. You're taking supply chain classes all over again, and you're learning those new methodologies and principles and how they could apply to your business at the end of the day. And you have to take that approach that, whether you take people off site and you train them, right, in different offices, or you train them on site. But the idea is that you are learning what the latest and greatest functionality and processes are from these different ERPs, so you could introduce them and benefit from those processes, train on them, and go live with those processes. Because
I think you should do that.
Yeah,
I think you should look at physically separating people and say, if you've got a boardroom, you can say, right, this is the ERP war room.
Yep.
For one, it gets rid of the distractions that people have. Like, get them off their desk.
Yeah.
Get them disconnected from their day to day, so they can get into that ERP mindset. A quick question though for you. You said 2 to 2.5 hours a day. So over a Monday to Friday, say that's 8 to 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
Do you suggest that people start planning 2 hours a day, or say, right, Friday is purely ERP day and just bung it all onto one day?
I generally don't like that, because the more you're in it, because when you go live, you're going to be in the system every day. And that's what you want to prepare for.
Okay.
Is a successful go live. So the more you're in there every day, you're going to be able to build on your knowledge, and things that come up through your day-to-day job, you're going to kind of relate back. Wait a minute. Did I test that today? I just, came across this unique situation. I'm going to test that tomorrow when I have my ERP training time. And I want to
Do you
make
think
sure
that's the same for the different phases? If we're super early,
yeah,
and we've got data validation and business process mapping, I understand for the testing,
yeah,
every single day makes more sense. Do you think the
yeah.
approach could be different in the early phase?
I think you have to be in there every day, but maybe not as much early on. So maybe
Okay.
early on, you're just in there maybe for half an hour. Let's log in. Let's navigate around. Can I run a report? Can I do X, Y, and Z? Can I get? Does this basic process flow make sense? Like very basic stuff, right? As you build your knowledge, that's when the time continues to increase. I feel like, right?
Yep.
Because the last thing you want to do is go live and you've only been in the system 3 times, and that was during pilot test. And then after that, like I forget about it. Now the rest of the team's working on it. Now I'm just going to wait till go live. Well, guess what? Right? You're going to wait for go live, and there's going to be a ton of things that you didn't train on or test on, or you're going to get stage fright, and all of a sudden it's going to slow you down, or you're going to forget things, right? Or there's a big gap that wasn't discussed because you just tested a few things that you were doing that week, essentially. So this has to be really top of mind. Has to be top of mind every single day for everybody in the company that's going to be involved in making decisions on the ERP.
Yeah, from what you're saying, I think that if I was the company in question, I would want to plan for a temporary slowdown.
Yeah.
So people, from a top down, people realize that the people at the top are not expecting you to do everything at the same cadence or at the same response time as before. I think you should plan for a temporary slowdown. And I think if you've got the right relationship with your customers anyway, send a mail shot out and just say to them, look, guys, we're going through a big change. We're changing our ERP. 1 or 2 sentences about what that means, because
exactly.
you don't want to assume that other companies know what you mean by going through an ERP migration or ERP implementation, and just say, look, response times might be a little bit slower. I don't know. I would think that it works both internally and externally, because you want to be able to make sure that the end users understand that the higher levels of management are taking it seriously, that are thinking about the fact that it's going to take time out of people's day to be able to dedicate to the project. And 2, the customers might kind of hold back and not like chase for answers if you haven't replied within 2 hours of their email or whatever. I think that just takes a bit of the heat off if you can try and plan for a slowdown, because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's not going to be one of these. You can't. What we're saying is you can't treat this as, oh yeah, I've not got any meetings on a Thursday. I'll do stuff.
I'll do that. Yeah.
You need to carve out time proactively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's also a play here for the executive team to incentivize their project team to get into the system and work harder, right? Because why give the money to the partner and the consultant, right? Why don't you empower your team to say, hey, you spend 2 hours a day in here, or whatever the goal is, and you take on ownership of this department or these processes and ensure a successful go live. Here are your benchmarks, and here are the incentives that you get. Could be, you get an extra, whatever, bonus, or you get an extra 5 days of PTO time, or you get an extra, right? Something rolled over into 401k. But if you incentivize them, they're going to be more in tune to say, yeah, I want to take this really seriously. It's just not me doing keystrokes and getting a production order on the other side, or me doing, a consumption. This is me actually needing to learn a system. So I take ownership of my specific department, or what I need to learn in my department, so we can make this successful as a company. It's not about me, it's about a team at the end of the day, right? And if you incentivize them, right, they're going to learn and do more on their own, less reliant on the partner. So why give the partner money? Give it back to your own employees. Put it back in their pocket at the end of the day, right? They're going to be your biggest advocates. They're going to use the system.
Yep.
So, if you could carve that out and you come up with a good model, then you're ready for an ERP because you got everybody on board. They're not on board just to say, oh, I'm just going to do what I was doing before, or I have to do a project and I just have no time and I can't
It'd
really
be great
do it.
if you could kind of measure that stuff. Like, I think going out for that team meal that could be, say, $600-700.
Mm-hmm.
You would probably save that in the time that's saved when you're engaged with your partner that's costing you like $200-250 an hour.
Exactly.
If you have a team that's motivated, that do the homework beforehand, that 4-hour discovery session could actually be done in 2 hours.
Exactly.
Then that team meal is paid for.
Right.
Like, it's so difficult to actually like record these kind of things. I know we talk about ROI and cost reduction and stuff like that, but it would be great if you could actually measure that, because I'm sure that these kind of incentives do actually pay off in lower costs during the meeting, in subsequent meetings when people are in the room, prepared, ready to go. You're going to get a lot more output from those meetings than if you hadn't done some of the nice incentives and dangled the nice carrot in front of them.
Exactly. So make the time, dedicate the time so you get ready for an ERP, right? Everyone, that should be across the board. So that is clear up front.
Okay. Point number 3. I think point number 3 is actually one of the big ones. You don't have an internal accounting person or accounting team. I think this is massive, especially if you're coming from disparate systems or disconnected systems. An ERP requires that strong accounting leadership, not just outside consultants. You need someone internal that drives accounting compliance, accounting controls, reporting setup. This is huge. And I think it's something that is underestimated if you don't have a dedicated accounting resource. We know that everything touches finance. Every single transaction in the system, whether that's booking in raw materials, whether it's backflushing raw materials into finished good, whether it's hitting labor, whether it's hitting accrual accounts, like every single transaction in the ERP in some way goes into a GL bucket, whether it's an accrual bucket, whether it's actually a posting class, whether it's a control account. Every impact hits the finances somewhere on the income statement, balance sheet, or the P&L. Something's getting hit. And I think if you don't have that dedicated resource, and I don't say dedicated resource for the project, I say dedicated resource in your day-to-day company, I don't think you're going to be ready for an ERP.
Yeah, it's just tough. It really is. And I've seen companies try to pull this off where, they don't have a dedicated accountant. The owner just hacked together QuickBooks and he's able to publish a financial statement just because the way QuickBooks operates, anyone, even without an accounting background, could use QuickBooks, really, right? Because it's so...
Okay, so why is an ERP different?
Well, because ERP requires you to understand what type of journal entries you need to create transaction by transaction. Right. It needs you to understand at the end of the day, what happens when there's exceptions to the process. When there's a return, what type of journal entries should we be hitting, right? Versus, what happens with QuickBooks oftentimes is that the owner set it up because he needs something to manage his expenses, not even the balance sheet, really, mainly just expenses and the P&L. Like, there's my revenue. I just spent money on postage. I just spent money on gas, and I just want to put this in, right? But then they take that information and they give that to their CPA or their tax accountant to fill out the tax return, right? Where ERP is a little different, where both the balance sheet and the income statement gets hit on transactions, right? And you have to understand the relationship between both of these financial statements and the chart of accounts to be able to set it up correctly, one. To do further deeper financial reporting, not just at the natural account level, but know that, hey, what type of categories am I actually making money on by type of products or type of customers or regions or, what do you call sub-accounts or dimensions, essentially, right? what is our profit margin? Where are all our costs coming from? How do we track proper variances going to the correct GL account, right? All that type of stuff, right? If you don't have that accounting background or know how to read financial statements or make decisions correctly, an ERP system is going to be tough because all it's going to do is add additional work that you're not prepared for. And if you're not prepared for that, an ERP is actually gonna be probably a detriment for you out of the gate until you find somebody that understands this and that could actually take that data and make it useful for you to make better production decisions, better buying decisions, better decisions with your customers, right? And that type of stuff. So the idea is to take whatever you pay for bookkeeping separately. Think about this. This is how I kind of relate this is if you pay somebody like a bookkeeper, an external bookkeeper, let's say $1,000 a month just to maintain a set of books for you, keep you a quote unquote live general ledger. An ERP system's designed to replace that bookkeeper. But there's somebody that needs to understand how to manage that in the ERP.
Yeah.
And if you don't
I
have
don't think
that,
you can grow in an ERP without a dedicated accounting resource.
Yeah.
Imagine if you start wanting to run fixed assets through your ERP.
Right.
And how they depreciate. It's going to be very difficult to outsource that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And these are more, like you mentioned, mom and pop shops, right? Where they know they need an ERP system. They're growing. Inventory is a mess. They don't have real-time visibility on work in process. They don't know, how many invoices they should be expecting because of receipts that they've got in, right? They know they need it. But the problem is that the back-end work to maintain a set of books, right, I think is going to outweigh any benefits you're going to see from the integration with inventory and production and all that type of reporting that you could potentially get, because it takes some level of business understanding and accounting experience to manage your financials inside an ERP.
Yeah, business understanding is the key for me there. There's only so much you can outsource. You need kind of someone that understands the day-to-day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, point number 4. I loved point number 4 because we laughed about this before we hit the record button. You allow negative inventory. So why is an ERP a no-go if you allow negative inventory?
The funny thing is as we're getting to this number, I thought if you don't have an internal accountant, you're not ready for an ERP. And probably if you don't have an internal accountant, you allow negative inventory. So it's accountants don't like that. They don't like negative inventory, right? Any finance team will tell you, I can't balance my books if you show me negative inventory. If you allow negative inventory, the ERP systems technically allow you to have negative inventory, but if you're going to allow that even in an ERP system, you're not ready for an ERP system. The whole idea of an ERP system is to keep the checks and balances in place so you don't see negative inventory. You have streamlined processes. You're able to balance your financials with the subledger, right? It all kind of makes sense when you look at the business, any transactions at the end of the day. And if you have negative inventory, none of that information is going to make sense to you. So
for me, it's purely a discipline issue.
Yeah.
Why are you shipping stuff where you got zero stock? It's crazy.
It's easy. Hit the easy button. Easy. Yeah. Because, this guy does it in the corner and we don't bother him. He just pumps out pics all day long and we really don't know if we have inventory. We can tell visually, or the owner knows because he has his own separate spreadsheet. But, we have to do the pics from this system because they look more professional. So inventory is completely negative there, but the owner has their own spreadsheet that they manage and just to verify that we have inventory or not.
You mean the owner has their own version of the truth?
Exactly, their own version of the truth. Exactly, and they're not ready to connect each other right now. So we're going to continue with the negative inventory. Then you should just probably stay away from an ERP system.
I guess this kind of goes back to point number 1, right? It's like fixing your business discipline before ERP.
Exactly. That is 100% true, because if you could fix that negative inventory process manually right now in your process, whatever you have, and you're able to stick to that you don't get negative inventory for a month or 2, now you're ready for an ERP system.
Yeah. Solve it before
Now
you
you're
throw
ready.
tech at it.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're ready for an ERP.
This
100%.
is what we say. All you're doing is digitizing your processes. Essentially, that's what an ERP is, isn't it? It's just a database underneath
Yeah,
with your digital processes layered on top. That's all it is.
exactly.
Fix it
Exactly.
beforehand.
Beforehand. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that, Peter. Fix it beforehand. See if you could, if the fix is permanent enough that it'll stick for a couple months. Then when you have it, now look for an ERP system, because now you don't have to manage multiple systems. Now you manage one system, but you have the discipline.
Yep.
I love it.
Good. Last point. Point number 5. Ownership does not dedicate a project manager, aka the loosey-goosey approach. So what happens if we try to not have... Yeah, I love that. What happens if we try to do this without a project manager? Well, I can tell you what can happen. Everyone's going to see this project as a side project. It goes back to our other point. Point number 2, not enough time. It's a side project then.
Yeah, it's going to be tribal knowledge again. Everyone's going to have tribal knowledge. This is this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. And no one's really giving that knowledge. There's not that one person that's connected at all, right? And everyone should have it connected, but that project manager is very important, not just from the standpoint that they are solid on the process, solid on the ERP, solid in making sure everyone's going to do what they have to do to make it successful, but also they're managing data, right? They're managing customizations, they're managing other aspects of the ERP. So the partner is dealing with a project manager from your side to make sure that the project is moving forward, right? Yeah. Instead of reaching out to 50 different people. So it's if you don't have a project manager, you can't dedicate one, because hey, everyone is too busy, and we can't go ahead and dedicate anybody, but come and train us at the end of the day. and let's implement an ERP system. Well, no, it's going to be hard, because we could train you guys, but at the end of the day, even if we train you, you don't have that one person that's going to hold that knowledge, that's going to be able to go and help other people with the processes, right?
So what makes a good project manager? Who should I be looking for within my company that could become the project manager?
That knows all the gaps, number one, of the business, because they've already done that legwork, like we talked about, number one, right? That know the gaps, how we're solving the gaps. They could reach out to any of the users and get the users time to do training, to follow up on actions that are needed from them, to make sure they do their homework, right? That they're actually looked at as a person of authority in the project, not just a project manager. They need to have authority to make sure the project's moving in the right direction, in the right cadence. And it's a person that could, at any given point, step in to help. Like if they need to do a transaction, they could step in and say, "Oh yeah, I could help you do it." They're the power user, right? At the end of the day, that's preferred. Maybe not necessary, but that's preferred. And this person's time should primarily be dedicated in the project. Yeah, they may be doing something else, but their workload on the other stuff should be reduced, so they take on this project and take it on successfully, because this is the heartbeat of your business. This is going to be the heartbeat of your business. You wouldn't want a cardiologist, right, to operate on 3 different bodies or 3 different persons at the same time. If you're going in there for open heart surgery, you want him to only operate on you, right? So you want to make sure you survive that surgery. So kind of the same thing. This is going to be a heart transplant. You want to make sure the person you put in there takes that as seriously, that they only focus on this project and not other things where their focus kind of drifts away, and now a lot of things are missed. Because if you do this right the first time, you're going to see so many benefits at the end of the day. Because this is a system that's going to be with you for 20, 30, 40 years in your business. And if you do it wrong the first time and you do it half-ass, it's going to cause so much chaos and pain for like a year or 2 years for you to get yourself out from underneath all that rubble that you got into before you see any benefit of the system.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that person is also the single point of accountability. I would think that it's the project manager. I say just the project manager, I was about to say the internal project manager, as if you could do this with an outsourced project manager, which you cannot do.
Right.
So I'm, assume that when I say project manager, I mean actually someone that works in that business.
Yeah.
That project manager should also be the one that has the tightest relationship with the ERP partner. Everything for me should flow through them. There is a hierarchy to this. You have end users to core team member. So, one person that is responsible for warehousing, for example. That person then reports to the project manager. So you'd have a warehousing person, a purchasing person, supply chain, finance, operations, sales, etc., etc. They all report to the project manager, who's this person that's kind of the expert who knows how the whole business kind of runs.
Exactly.
They then distill that information, corroborate stuff, and talks to the ERP partner about it. There's an escalation process, essentially, you need to follow.
Huge. I agree on that. And that person, is the success of the project. I wouldn't say hinges on this person, but again, they should be given the authority to, ensure success at the end of the day.
Yeah.
To get it to a successful state. So
Yep.
if you can't dedicate a project manager to this project, then you're not ready for an ERP.
Yep. It's such a difficult role because they also need to not be they also need to not be a bitch. They need to be someone that's seen as a leader, that kind of motivates the team, has technical competency, understands the business, can articulate, can speak to non-tech people, but also speak to tech people in your ERP partner. It's a difficult role, right? And at the same time, supporting the team, keeping motivation going. And they need to be an internal person, which means they've also probably got their own job role. It could be anyone. We're not saying this is someone in a particular position of seniority anyway, but they need to be someone that others see leadership qualities in. It could be someone on the shop floor that just understands everything. That's difficult, but you need to find that person.
You need to find that person. And that's gonna, that's gonna make or break your implementation at the end of the day. Because if you just rely on the partner to run your project, the partner doesn't know your business as well as you do, right? And they don't know your users as well as you do. So that person will, put that team together and have that insight, have those conversations internally to make sure that all of the proper decisions are being made for the benefit of the business at the end of the day.
And I think they also operate as the sense checker.
Yeah,
because when you've got end users speaking to your ERP partner during discovery week, and they're saying something that's not quite right, you need that project manager to go, "Are you sure?" Or even say, "You've been moaning about this particular point for 10 minutes. How often does it happen?" "Oh, once a year." There needs to be that sense checker as well.
Exactly. Absolutely. And, if you don't, the problem is customers don't know what they don't know about ERP projects. Yeah. So, ideally you want someone that maybe internally has gone through an ERP project potentially in their previous employment, right? That would be huge. But second is willing to learn, and just has this curiosity to learn, ask questions, and do what's right for the company.
Yep.
So.
Agreed. So there are 5 points. I think this has been really great. We're at time now. But I think this was an important one. And I know what you said at the start, we keep doing these negative ones, but maybe the next couple we need to do like, maybe you're definitely ready for an ERP.
You're ready now.
Why you're ready right now.
No, it's presenting different sides to this because these are serious projects, and not to take our political theme right now in our world, but you're not buying QuickBooks again, so you have to approach it completely different. It's not Adobe, it's not an inventory system, it's inventory, sales, purchasing, planning, finance. It's that system. So if you want to call that ERP, you want to call that business management, whatever you want to call it, but it's that system. All these different modules, right? You're buying 7 systems in one. So you got to think about how important that is and how much work that's going to require to make this successful.
Yep. So. And opportunities to buy like bolt-on modules. You might find another piece of your business that you want to bring into the system as well. Maybe you've got a whole QC process that needs something more than just basic bare bones that an ERP would give you. You know, there's solutions out there there's a whole industry around QC logging and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely not just another QuickBooks. So if you found yourself nodding along to any of these points, take it as a sign that there's still prep work to do. I would say that there's always going to be prep work to do before an ERP can really make a difference. But I would say at some point, you know, you would be ready. There's no such thing as too much prep work on this stuff. But I wouldn't see that as a setback. It's an opportunity. As we said, it's an opportunity to really reevaluate your processes, strip out the crap, the legacy stuff, the whole mentality of that's the way that we've always done it. Question your processes, optimize that. This is a huge opportunity for a business process optimization chance. And then you'll be looking at digitizing how we should operate our business. And I think really businesses that succeed with ERP aren't those ones that rush in. They're the ones that do take the time to get those processes clear, their data clean, their teams aligned, motivated, spurred on to really make a change. As Nirav, you said, this is a system you're going to be with for 20, 30 years. So take the time on that. Do the groundwork today when you're ready. And then ERP will become really that growth engine instead of any roadblock. As well as a growth engine, it's going to be a cost reduction, possibly.
Exactly.
As your processes get streamlined and you can start to leverage some of the, maybe in a phase 2 of a project, of an ERP project, is the automation of heavy admin parts of your business. So I think that's it. If you are in this phase where you're considering what an ERP can do and you're stuck on QuickBooks, or you're stuck with pen and paper on your desk, let us know. Reach out. Are you at this stage where you're considering it? Drop us a like, or just send a message. I'm so sure when this episode gets rolled out, we'll be spamming it on LinkedIn, the normal places. So yeah, reach out and let us know how you're getting on with your considerations of whether you think you're ready for an ERP. Enjoy, and I will catch you on the next episode.
All right, Peter. Have a good one.